Welcome to Passionate Mark
Podcast.
Hi, and welcome to a Passionate Mark podcast episode. Today, I just wrote down on the screen behind me here, your past is haunting your present. And what does that mean? I'm sure we all been in some kind of relationship, and I hope you have. And most of the times, we can just talk about any relationship. It can be a friendship, it can be a relationship, it can be a relationship to food, it can be a relationship to anything. The fact is that most people are very stuck in a certain pattern. And I heard Peter Crone talk about this, and I thought it was such a great subject because it's something I talk about a lot. And it's that our past is haunting our present and haunting our now. In the aspect that we tend to have been in a relationship and connect the feeling of being in a relationship to certain events that happened in our previous relationships. So if you are finding yourself not wanting to start a new relationship or being worried that if you start a new relationship, it's going to end up in pain, then you will probably realize that if you believe this so much, and truly, you will actually spend your time finding relationships that will give you pain instead of enjoyment. And I think the lack of the enjoyment that you will find is because your nervous system is so prepared of failure that you're not ready for commitment in the healthy way. And let's say everyone talks about Tivoli in Denmark. Tivoli is this theme park. Everyone loves to go there. It's so exciting. And most kids are longing to go there. It's actually almost a tradition that someone goes there a family will go there every year or every second year as a celebration of let's go to Tivoli because it's such a, and I know there's a lot of theme parks in America and other places in the world where you tend to go to a theme park as a tradition or something that we do. I think it's called I can't remember. There's different theme parks in America. I've definitely been to a few. Disney, I've been to Universal Studios, I've been to Epcot Center or something like that. That's in America at least. But I will say, when you've been there, if I go to Tivoli with my kids that I don't have yet, and I'm having a blast, but they got so scared of going on the roller coaster. They got so scared that their nervous system they would cry right after, but then they would get over it because they find something else they're interested in. But emotionally, they might have been, affected in a certain way that they will have a hard time releasing that feeling. So from now on, when I mention Tivoli, they would probably feel a sensation of excitement, but also a lot of fear and pain and stress. And this way, you can think about a relationship because it has a lot of good things in it, but it has some exciting things in it sometimes that will hurt you and will make you feel sad or not good enough. And by the way, all those feelings often come from you. So you can't feel like you're not good enough in a relationship if you didn't have that feeling already about yourself. If you love yourself truly, you have statistically much more chance of loving someone else truly. And that goes without saying when it comes to any emotion. So if you feel you're not good enough because this person did this and that, it probably stems from a feeling that you already felt you're not good enough. And this person is just confirming what you believe already. And that's why it feels huge when they say you're not good enough, or they have a behavior that you interpret as being you're not good enough. So this way you can't feel horrible about something if you already didn't have that feeling or that association with that feeling. Because if I would tell you right now, you have a blue face, and you look in your mirror and you don't have a blue face, you won't get offended of me saying you have a blue face because it's not true. As well as I say the sky is green, you'll be like, Mark's just an idiot. Because it wouldn't be true. But if I told you you're not good enough, and you know that feeling very well, and you've been telling yourself that before because your mom or dad did tell you that or made you feel that way, by the way, they can't make you feel anyway, because if it doesn't resonate, they can't make you anything. Just like I can't make you blue-faced or the sky green. It is how you see the world, and it resonates with the someone that you're with. So if you, let's go back to the relationship, if you associate a bad relationship like going to Tivoli, that the roller coasters there is so scary that I'm afraid my dad or mother will bring me on that roller coaster and I'm gonna go through all that horrible feeling again. Even though there's excitement and thrill and also fear in the same feeling about the roller coaster, you will now feel the same way about a relationship. If you've been in a relationship, had a bad experience, now you will associate that bad experience with the next relationship. Even I found myself in other relationships starting to behave the same way that I did previously, but previously it wasn't a success. I behaved that way. So isn't it weird that I would do that again? Why would I hurt myself again by feeling the same emotions? And it is like, oh, I have this presentation on Friday. I'm so scared of it. I've done maybe 10 other presentations and I was scared all the time. And now your nervous system is learning to be scared and associating it with doing presentations at work or school or whatever. And when you start creating those associations, your body tends to cramp up or like get tension in the stomach or the head or the neck or the jaw, whatever it is where your fear is placed. Very often I see anger is in the jaw, and fear can be either in keeping your body and your shoulders up or down, or you strengthening your body, like tightening your back or your groin or stomach, or something like that. So our emotions tends to take over in our bodies, and we know this when we've been through something that we thought was going to be horrible, and then we do it, and we realize that the release that comes after that, like, oh my God, I felt so bad in my stomach right now. Now I'm just so sore, or I'm just so sore or stiff in my neck after this presentation, because up to that presentation, your adrenaline was going, your cortisol was going. That's the stress hormone you don't want. All these things went on, and you were like tightening your body because of that. All of this is just you being in the past relationship, in a past presentation, in a past Tivoli session, in a theme park. It's you being in the past and you taking the emotions from that and putting them in the now. And you even trying to push it into the future. Even you can't be in the future and you can't be in the past. You can only remind yourself or remember the pain, and then it's very clever. If you ever ran from a tiger in the jungle in ancient times, and you ran from that tiger and you survived because you were fearful, and that gave you like extra cortisol and power and adrenaline, and you were running away from the tiger and you survived. So why is that relevant? Because the same survival skill is when you do that presentation, when you are in that relationship, when you are going to Tivoli again, you will be in that survival state and being like, the only thing you can worry about the whole day is that you have to tell your dad that you don't want to go on the roller coaster again, because that was so horrible. But then again, when you walk past the roller coaster, you get kind of a tingling sensation in your stomach, a mix of fear and thrill and excitement, and maybe you want to try it again, but that was so horrible that you almost feel like crying just the thought of it. And all these things are emotions valid for a child as well as a grown-up. So you're just choosing, and I'm saying choosing, you're choosing unconsciously or not aware, you're choosing to have the same emotions about something until you get back on the horse. That's why we have the saying, get back on the horse. Why would you get back on a horse? Because why don't you just stay there? Because someone fell off the horse, and the best way to like riding and continue in the present is to get back on the horse. So we experience something horrible and we use that as a fuel to get back on the horse. So will you get better relationships by waiting and finding the right one? Or will you get better relationships by you daring to be in a relationship that might not be the one or could be the one? Because how would you know? Your judgment is based on fear and not living in the moment. So why would the world and the universe and God or whoever you believe in or nothing present you with the possibilities of you going to a relationship, if it wasn't something for you to challenge or for you to experience. Because I think most of us, we grow when we go through that pain of doing something again that hurt us. And it's not like stupid things. I won't put my hand in a fire if I burned myself before. Why would I? It wasn't a pleasant experience. And there's no purpose of me putting my hands in the fire, except if I'm really cold, it might also be a bad idea to burn my hands that quickly. But to understand that fear mindset that you will stay away from things that hurt you. But sometimes a brain in survival mode will say what hurt you was a relationship, but what actually really hurt you was you being gullible in a relationship, not setting up boundaries for your partner, or you stepping into a relationship you knew was already doomed because you already, before you stepped into that relationship, didn't believe in relationships and that you could find love. And so now your nervous system wants to find failure in love to confirm that belief you already have. So if you believe that relationships are associated with pain, you will find a relationship that is associated with pain so you could heal the pain. You can transform the pain to becoming love and pleasure. But if you keep listening to the pain and you don't have the patience to go through and work through these emotions, you will just meet resistance and pain again and again and again, as long as you associate pain in relationships and relationships with pain. So this is a huge invitation for you to try to transform that. And how do we do that? Well, for me, the way that I have done that and still do, I believe in this one quote that I remember from a Baz Luhrmann song or something like that. I think it's called Sunscreen. I pretty much disagree with the whole song now, but back then when I heard it, I think there was something about it that says, do one thing each day that scares you. And I don't remember it's from that song or that song also just confirmed what I already did. But growing up, when I was in my teens, we just call it challenge. And I would yell challenge to my friend, anything that I just came up with an idea that he had to do to kind of show his worth to himself and me and the group. And it would be just challenge. I dare you. It could be the same a game as I dare. I dare you to pull down your pants on the street and moon the police car. That'd be crazy. And if you said no, then the next challenge would be worse, or it could be two challenges in one. And it eventually would lead into, then you have to pay or you have to do a favor for the other one because you're not doing the challenge. And the whole idea was to challenge each other, to grow and not always do crazy things. It could also be, I challenge you to go talk to that girl and to say that she's pretty. And you would do that, but you will always find out. And what I did, like in the beginning, you don't want to, but you're being talked into it. And the beautiful thing about this, you will evolve slowly to realize that you have a lot more courage and guts to do things that you thought you were. So peer pressure put in a good use, for good use. I wanted to say like peer pressure bottled in good wine. But I think that really taught me a lot to do things that I was afraid of. And if you learn how to do that, and we also know that from science, your brain gets smarter when you do things that you don't like. So for me, that will look like one thing I also practice a lot is I go to cold plunges, meaning I go to the ocean here in Denmark and also other countries. It gets pretty cold when it's winter. Sometimes in Celsius, it's like 5 degrees. It's like sometimes even 0 degrees. And I don't stay there long. Some people do, but the shock of that, the stress of that, getting through the pain of that is actually part of the challenge. It's part of, you don't have to do what I say, but I just want to inspire you. If you do things like that, it will be contagious into other things that you also do. If you can go into 5-degree water and stay there for like a minute or two, there's a lot of other stuff you'll happily do because it's not as bad as that. So it all makes you excel. It's like the athlete that starts to run like 5 kilometers in a sprint. Or then next time he's going to run 5.5, and next time he's going to run even 7, and then he's going to reach a point where he can't just only run 4, and then he's going to be like, oh, why I'm not myself? It doesn't work. I try to pressure myself. I'm not good enough. All these things, and he goes through the pain and the struggle, and then at some point he's almost thinking he's going to give up, and then eventually he's going to run 10, and he's going to be like, I don't know what I did. I just felt like it one day. I didn't prepare as I used to do. I changed my strategy to go without fear. I didn't even have my running shoes on. I went for 10 kilometers, or like 3 miles or whatever. So the whole idea is to train your mind to understand that what it fears right now might be not worth fearing. It might be limiting you, and that's what we call limiting beliefs. I can't do that. No, I can't go talk to him. I can't say that to her. I don't like relationships. Relationships are not for me. All these limiting beliefs that we just created based off the only evidence we have is that the fear we saw, like our parents, that's the first place we learn, right? Our parents, our siblings, our best friends, and people we see, and then later people on TV said to me that this and this is true, so it must be true. And that's what the news uses against you all the time. A bunch of experts got together and they found out that it's really good to take an injection, that we don't know what's in it, but it will protect you from anything you can imagine, even though the science doesn't say it's true. But let's just say that it feels that it's very true because scientists said that. And we don't know the sciences. We don't know what their education is, how long they studied. If someone paid them underneath the table, behind their back, not behind their back, but just paid them, we can't trust it. But we started trusting it because we trusted what our parents say. Then, you reach a certain age, you realize your parents was full of bullshit. They're like, you have to go to bed now. Why? Because if you don't, the monster's going to come out under the bed and eat you. What the hell? Crazy things like parents would say to scare their children in the 80s or 90s or whatever, or even today. And I remember like stupid things parents would say to control their children not to drown. They would say, if you go longer than your belly button, you will drown. And it's like, oh my God, I don't want to die. So I don't want to, some kids even didn't want to go in the water or in the ocean because the parents scared them so much. And all the parents they were in the past fearful about the future, and they would tell us lies to keep us there. If you watch too much television, you get squared eyes. Like, what? And even my dad, who was an eye specialist and an eye doctor surgeon, he would say things like that. And all these things create fearful mindsets in children. And later on, we realized our parents were full of bullshit. So where you learn about relationships is often from your parents. But now you carry their pain, because a lot of parents will tell you stories that are true to them and might not be true to you. So they don't have the awareness that you might not meet the same crazy people that they did, because you didn't have the same crazy parents that they did. And maybe the grandparents that you now have are amazing, but they were horrible parents when they were young. So you won't know where all this pain comes from. And all you need is a mom or dad who had a horrible relationship and you grew up in that. All you need is, like, when I grew up in a lot of pain with my father, that would hit me and hurt me and lock me in and burn my toys. All the things that they taught me was being a father is evil. Being in a masculine mindset, because apparently my dad was masculine. That's how I interpreted his behavior. He was masculine because he was a man. And so now I have resistance towards men. And the way that men are manly. I would connect that unconsciously to being evil. So someone being really much like a man, he must be evil. So I became much more sensitive. I like hanging out with my friends who are girls. I didn't become gay or anything, but I just liked the values of being in my feminine instead. And that made me understood or taught me to understand emotion way better, because I wasn't taught emotion at home. I wasn't allowed to cry. I was told to shut up if I cried, and if I kept crying, I'll probably be hit or hurt, or my toys would be burned or thrown out or something like that. I would get punishment for showing emotions. And that's why I'm so interested in emotions, because even though I got punished for emotions, it's not like I didn't have emotions. I had a bunch of emotions. I just didn't know how to react proper to them because my parents were not very good with emotions. I remember having an ex-girlfriend. She lost her mom because the mom committed suicide when I was like 18. My girlfriend's mom committed suicide by hanging. It was a horrible situation, and my mom was so odd and awkward around my girlfriend at that time. She was supposed to be the grown-up that could be comforting her and telling her the right things. I'm so sorry, because now the closest thing to a mother would be my mother. But my mother was a great mother in many ways. But to other people, she was more like, she was also working as a teacher in what do you call it, college or no? I don't know what you call it in America, but like grundskole, ground school in Denmark. So understanding all that, my mom was horrible with emotions like that. She didn't know what was the right thing to do, because she grew up in a family where strong emotions weren't something that was applauded. It was something to get over or being shy about, hiding them, not having too many emotions, not showing too many emotions, because then that will make you weak and people will exploit that weakness. But in fact, I find showing emotions and not being emotional, but allowing being emotional for a certain amount of time, where you can be like, so you'll see these people on Instagram or social media that just go crazy emotional, or on the street, like, I'll get a little bit political here, but like a leftist movement where like some Karen is kind of like being ecstatic, angry about something, and her emotions are all over. All this shows me is that she's in imbalance. She wants attention, and she uses that attention to get negative attention, because she doesn't know any better, and she wants to be in control of everything because she's actually fearful. But coming back to the subject, when you look at your parents, you will start behaving like your parents, and you will gather their trauma into your life right now, and you will learn from that as well. But they are not you, and you are not them. And when you start to understand how much and have awareness of how much you are not them, and how much you are yourself, and you have to go through, or you are invited to go through the journey to find out who you are and how you can be a better version of yourself. And I find that it takes time, but you allowing yourself to have all these emotions, I'm so happy to see some of the teens that I know and people in their 20s, like my nephews and nieces, and they're much better at showing emotions, but they're still afraid of being awkward. Like, losing face is a big thing when you're young. But the fact is, the more gutsy and more brave you are just to fucking show up who you are and be passionate and allow yourself to be that person that you are. And of course, being a good person and taking responsibility for your own bullshit. So if you do hurt someone, you will take responsibility, but you won't take in my opinion, you shouldn't take responsibility for other people's emotions. So if you say something that wasn't meant to be hurtful, or wasn't even phrased hurtful, but they interpreted it as such, even my leftist comment before, it's up to you to deal with. If you felt hurt by that, that's your issue. You have to take it, take responsibility for the emotions that you have, and understand that the emotions you have are yours. It's only because you connect whatever words I say with an emotion that you had in you, and now you react to it. And to get back on the subject, which is still on the subject, by the way, you creating emotions about what a relationship is your your assumption about how relationships are supposed to be and what they most likely are. And I want to remind you, some people are living in relationships where they screw other people all the time. Some people are in relationships where they see each other once a year. Some people are in relationships where they have sex maybe 3 to 10 times a day. I remember an ex-girlfriend, and that was her expectations of me, that, I couldn't follow up on that. 10 times a day, she said, with her ex. I was like, that's not my goal to do that 10 times a day. So it depends also what she defined as sex, but still, you have to understand that some people live without sex for years and they're good. They're happy. Some people are not happy. Some people find other ways to be happy. But other people just want company. So there's not a recipe of how a relationship should be. Some people are even in relationships with more people. Polygamy or something like that. I forget the English words again. But I think, just a reminder, I'm Danish. So that's why I struggle sometimes. But just to understand that your interpretation of what a relationship is right now, if you're fearful of it, I'm just going to tell you straight up, that's not a relationship. If you're fearful about ending in that situation again, it's not about being fearful in a relationship. It's about you just living with fear. You being fearful about the future. And that's okay. That's just an emotion. It's not factual. It's not like you fear it and then it will happen automatically, only if you don't have awareness. So the more you actually fear the thing and you don't want to prove to yourself that it's not true, or it could be facets of the truth, it could be numerous of many truths, and one of them is that. If you don't want to prove to yourself that it might not be true, then you will have that fear forever. Because, I'm sorry to say, you thrive on having that fear. You decided. I remember my cousin once said, like, she was afraid to, I have many cousins, so you won't know which one. She was afraid to be alone and maybe finding someone that wasn't good enough, and maybe thought that she wasn't good enough, that she decided not even go dating because it wasn't worth it. So she was so afraid of being alone that she didn't go dating. So she actually chose to be alone in fear of being alone. You see how that works? It kind of is counterintuitive. So my invitation, and luckily she understood this after a time, some years, and she's super happy, it seems. So at least she got somewhere with that and learned from it that fear of a relationship, or fear of connection, or fear of speaking honestly to your parents, or speaking to someone, or walking up to someone, all that fear is based on your past. And as long as you live in the past, you're not living in the now. And then we don't have to get philosophical, but seriously, factually, all we have is now. Like now and now and now, all this now went by, and the now is now in the past, but you're still living in the now. You cannot decide what the future will bring you. Yes, you could decide to go down and buy some eggs and not be hungry in an hour, but you won't know if that's going to work out or not. And if you bought eggs before and you got hit by someone on a bike, or you fell over, you will now maybe being a situation, like really, really a stupid example, but you might be fearful of buying eggs. But you shouldn't be fearful of buying eggs. You should be fearful about not looking if there's any bicycles or holes that you will fall in on your way to buy eggs. And that's the same thing with the relationship. You can be fearful of a relationship, but in fact, you're actually fearful about the small little things that happened in a relationship where you felt lost. So you're afraid of not having control, and you're afraid of not being loved, and you're afraid of being alone. But guess what? You will keep being alone if you're not in a relationship and if you're not practicing it. I remember saying this to an ex-girlfriend. She was like, yeah, maybe if we take a break, we will, find a way to love each other better. And I was like, so let me understand this, I said to her. So if we want to be really great at playing tennis, if we go off the court and stop playing tennis, you're saying to me that we get better at playing tennis? And she's like, no, well, yeah, but, and then, I understood at that time that it was not about getting better at tennis. It was not about getting better at the relationship. It was about her not getting what she wanted. And she wanted children and a house, and she wanted all on the checklist. It didn't matter if I wanted children or a house or a dog, which I wanted all of them, but just not now. I wanted them to come naturally and not planned. And I wanted us to explore what will happen. We were together for 3 years. What would happen in that time? We were probably a year in. What would happen if we just take it day by day and talk about children, agreeing about what we like, what we don't like? What would happen if we looked at houses not every day of the week and not every Sunday going out seeing 3 or 4 houses, because it's not like we needed a place to stay. When the house arrived, I didn't care if I have to wait a year or 2 or 3 years. That would be great, as long as it felt good when we were doing it. So it's all about maturing to the idea of what you want together. And some people mature in 5 minutes. They're like, yeah, okay, let's have children. Or, yeah, let's buy that house. But other people, they need months or years or even decades sometimes to take that big leap. And that's the invitation to you. You can decide how long is it going to take you for being ready to love, or being ready to release the love that doesn't work for you, being ready to go into therapy and work with yourself, being ready to look at the shadow sides, being ready to have awareness about what's going on in my heart, my stomach, my mind. How am I living life right now? How does everything feel right now when I'm doing what I'm doing? This is sponsored by A Daily. Go to adaily.dk to know more. I've been using A Daily, and they focus on the essentials your body actually daily needs. Their omega-3 supports your heart, brain, and vision, and much more. Their vitamin D with MCT supports your immune system and muscles, especially if you don't get enough sun. And the magnesium glycinate helps reduce fatigue and supports your energy levels. No unnecessary ingredients, just clean and effective supplement. Go to adaily.dk and use the code BARNER20. Again, I'm sure you will love it just as much as I do. It's all up to you, and you decide when you're ready to do all of this. But I just wanted to invite you in that your past is haunting your present. If something right now in your life is not working out as you want it, there's a purpose of why it's not working out. It might be because of you, or it might be because of the way you see things. When I met my current girlfriend, I thought she wasn't my type. She didn't have any drama in her life. She wasn't a narcissist. My dad was a narcissist on many fronts, and he was that because of a reason. He learned that was the best behavior for his upbringing, that he learned that was the best way to be in life, and it gave him something. So that was his survival way of living in life, because he was literally in survival mode a lot of my life. And I learned to be that myself. And so it's not like a fluke of inconvenience that I also am in survival mode, because I was taught by my parents how to live in that. And that is high cortisol. That's the high stress hormone. I'm always on the lookout if there's some danger or some fear that I have to be aware of. And maybe every time something is great in my life, I'm afraid to celebrate it too much, because what if it goes wrong? Because I've experienced over and over with my dad, something great happened and I was so happy, and my dad would take it from me to hurt me on purpose. So now I associate things going really well with pain. I'm fearful of success because that could lead to pain. And guess what? That is contagious in all fronts, in everything that I do. And I'm aware of it, which is the first huge step. I'm aware of it, and I'm aware that it's false. It's not factual. That's not how life is. It's not inherently just the way life is. It hurts you because something is good. No, that's my belief. That's my limiting belief. And it's not true. And I know it's not true. I've seen people have success. I've had a lot of success in my life, but I have a hard time celebrating it. And I have a hard time, I wanted to say something in Danish, hvile på laurbærne. It means resting on the, what the hell is laurbær? It's really a good plant. Anyways, like I have a hard time just trusting the process. And now I'm just stuck on what the hell the leaves are, because it's really a healthy plant. So I would just mention that, but that's another podcast. So my limiting belief is totally false. But it feels so real because I've been in it so many times. I've been struggling so many times, and it feels true in many aspects of my life. I start something, it becomes a success, and then somehow I ruin it for myself. I might not put too much effort in it anymore because maybe it will fail. And it goes to say, maybe that is the reason for some of my projects not becoming a success because I am subconsciously afraid if it turns into a success, then it's going to also turn into pain. But I know it's not true. I know it's my limiting beliefs. So I invite you into understanding the awareness that you can create about having limiting beliefs. What do you believe right now, emotionally or physically or mentally, that isn't true? It's like, could you lift 100 kilos right now? And most people be like, no, I couldn't. I'll lift my body weight, but no, I can't lift an additional 100 kilos. But if you were lifting 100 kilos a little bit at a time every day, in 3 months, you probably will be able to lift 100 kilos, depending on your build, your gender, everything like that. And I'm talking about physical gender, woman or man. So would you be able to walk up to anyone right now and ask them on a date? I would guess like 50% would say no. I wouldn't do that. That's going to be too pushy. They probably wouldn't like me. I probably, they wouldn't like it, or I might cause some kind of stupid scene. I don't want to go through the discomfort. But the fact is, most people who actually go and do this, not because they want to go on a date, but because they want to just be better at going up to people and asking. I do find some people and some cultures better at it than others. I think Americans are pretty good at it. I think Australians are pretty good at it as well. Italians, especially the men, pretty good at walking up to people, just asking if they want to go on a date, or like even worse things. So it all depends on the culture as well. And the culture that you grew up in is your family. The culture you come from is what you learn from your parents or your best friends or your brothers and sisters. So you can decide what culture your kids grow up in, and what kind of new friends that you will gain will grow up in because they had you as a friend. I'm definitely known for someone as a friend that would try crazy things, but you find me another day, I wouldn't be super outgoing. I'll be having an introverted day where I'm much more easygoing, and other days where I'm like so excited and I'm like, I want to make podcasts, or I want to go talk to people, and I want to give them a compliment for the dress or the shoes or the hair or the car, whatever it is. Not necessarily just to give them a compliment, but to also practice talking to people and being outgoing and spreading some love out there. So, and that's basically what I'm doing here as well. So I hope you learned a little bit of something today, that your limiting beliefs are holding you back, and that is the past. And the more you can be in the now, the better. The more you can live in the now, the better. Less fear is in the now. More awareness, more breath. You notice how you breathe. You notice the sounds around you. You live. That is how to be in the now. Like, you look at things and you have a feeling or a notion of what you're looking at, and you don't go back in your past and be like, oh, I remember seeing this building, but now you're no longer in the now. This thing just reminded you of, and by the way, while I had this talk, you probably were in the past and in the now and in the future a lot of the times. But in fact, you weren't anywhere other than in the now, listening to what I said, and even listening to what you thought. So being in the now is something we should practice. And I'm saying should. I don't want to force anything onto you, but I invite you to try to be in the past more. And my favorite thing, and I'm going to end the podcast on this, my favorite way to be in the now is this exercise. So if you want to try it, so lean back and take 2 breaths and sigh it out like I did through the mouth, not rat, but just mouth. And do it one more time. In the nose, out the mouth. And I want you to really feel about this, what I'm saying, and say it to yourself. I wonder what my next thought will be. I wonder what my next thought will be. And you're not allowed to think of anything else than that. You are not allowed to create your own thought or anything else. You have to listen to if there's a thought coming up that you didn't create. So every time you feel like you created that, you started thinking about this thing, you stop thinking about it and be like, no. I wonder what the next thought will be that I didn't create. So that's the exercise. And of course, you don't create any thoughts if you... I don't know what the hell happened over there. I don't know. Apparently it's listening to me. The TV is listening to me. You will not create any thoughts you didn't create yourself. So one way to do this would be to you asking yourself, every time you're stressed, every time you want to be in the now, I wonder what my next thought will be. And enjoy that silence, because that is in the now. And then start listening to the birds, the road, the trees, the noise, the people talking, without getting into the conversations, just enjoying the sounds and not reacting so much to the things around you. And you can do this in a relationship too. You can listen to the other person, not agreeing at all or disagreeing totally or agreeing. It doesn't matter. But you just listening to what's being said and the tone of voice without judging it, but just allowing that other person to have emotions that you don't have to react to. And they can be agitated or something. And you can still say to yourself, I wonder what my next thought will be. You can tune out and you can breathe through that. I remember one coach saying, notice the heat on your mouth, on your nose. Notice the heat on your nose when you breathe out, and notice the cooling of the nose when you breathe in. So if you start noticing that, is it cool now? Where is it cool? How does it feel? How long in the nose? How long on the tip? Do I feel it in my upper lip? Things like that is also being in the now. That's actually a full meditation you can do based on that. Anyways, I'm going to leave you with that, and I hope you learned something today. I definitely love talking about these things and having awareness, and this has helped me immensely, so I hope it will help you. At least we took the first step talking about it, and you being fearful is a logical structure of your mind, because fear previously in a survival mind has helped you before. So being fearful is just because your amygdala in your brain thinks it's helping you. Maybe there's something to be fearful about. So it thinks it's helping you, and that's why it keeps doing it. And you can be agitated or frustrated over it, but the only thing that will release the fear is you loving that fear because it used to protect you, but now you don't need it. So you can say, hey, fear, thanks for coming by. I don't think I need you right now, but I recognize that you're there and you're trying to protect me, but I just don't need you right now. So I'm going to send you out the door again, and I'm going to take a moment for you to leave, but I don't need you. Thanks for being here. I'll see you another day. And you do that every time you feel fear, or you have a good friend that you hang out with a lot, or family, and you just say, in a relationship or whatever, you say, I feel fear coming up, and I feel around my stomach or my jaw, and I feel short of breath, but I notice now that when I talk about it now, I notice that the fear is not as bad anymore, because what if you hate me after me making this podcast, and you will tell your friends that Mark is stupid and he knows it all and he's such a smart ass, whatever it could be. But you talking about it can dismantle the fear. Anyways, guys, thanks for listening to Passionate Mark with me, Mark Barner. And if you want to follow along, you can go on Instagram.com/Mark Barner. And you can even find my spiritual stuff on Instagram.com/Mark Barners with an S in the end. And you can also go on markbarner.com, and you'll probably find my blog on there. And there's a lot of content about health and some content about spirituality. I even put some stuff in my shop to work on shadow sides, to be better at your intuition, all these things. And I hope you'll go there and explore it in the shop. It's not expensive at all. We're talking about free stuff, and we're talking about things that are maybe $20, $30. So up to you if you want to excel your spiritual gifts and excel your personal, your awareness. Yeah, anyways, enjoy. And I hope you were inspired by this. Send it to someone that you think needs more love and needs to love themselves more and deserve much better things in their life that they have right now. And maybe you can change their lives too.
Passionate Mark.
you just listen to my podcast, I just want to say, if you feel like sponsoring some of my content here on the podcast, or even on my Instagram where I have over 100,000 followers, let me know. You just reach out to me through my website or through my Instagram.